On section 2.2, we're going to talk about state income tax. And again, most states are different. And when we look up all the different ones, every state has a different tax rate. All of them are pretty close, but some of them are higher than others. Ours is lower compared to some of the other states. Most states require employers to withhold a certain amount of pay for income tax. In some states, the tax withheld is a percent of taxable wages. Your taxable wages depends on exemptions or withholding allowances for which allow you supporting yourself, your spouse, and other members of your family. So just like yesterday, how we had that allowances or the dependents or whatever, same type of thing where we give allowances for that. It says, for these types of formulas on section 2, taxable wages is going to equal the annual gross pay minus any exemptions. Okay. So we're going to minus out any exemptions. You will get an exemption if you are single, you will get an exemption if you're married, and you'll get an exemption if you have any dependents living with you. Now, dependents, a lot of times people think of them as your children. Do dependents always have to be your children? No. If you are legal guardian of, let's say later on in your life where you become legal guardians of your parents, because that could happen, they would be dependents of you. If you become a legal guardian of, let's say, your siblings, those would be dependents of you. Okay? So it doesn't necessarily mean how many children you have. So that's the first formula. Then the second formula that we're going to use, it says the state income tax is going to be equal to the taxable wages that are the number that we just found. Oh, I cannot spell today. Or ever, I guess. But multiplied by the tax rate. Now again, that number is not going to be the same every time because it depends on what state you live in. Every state is different. Okay, some states have higher, some have lower. Some, like we were saying, Nevada and Alaska, I don't think have that. Okay, it is all public record. We could actually look them up if we wanted to. Okay? Now, here's what you have to do for this. And the part that I want to point out to you is on page 132. The first part on 132, about halfway down the page. Do you see a chart on the right-hand side of the page that says single, 2,000, married, 4,000, and each dependent, 2,000? That is the table of the chart that they refer to in your problems. Okay? That little thing right there is the table or the chart that you're going to refer to when it comes to doing your problems today. Alright, so when they refer to that, it's not in the back of the book or anything. This is, you're going to use that little table right there. Okay? The first example that they give you says that your gross pay is $23,760. And it says that you're married with 3 dependents. And the state income tax rate is 4%. And what they want you to do is they want you to find the amount withheld annually in state tax. So first of all, let's minus out the things that we can. According to this person's info, are they single or are they married? They're married, so how much money do you get to subtract right away? 4,000. Then, how much does it say that you get per dependent? 2,000. Now, here's something that could help you or could hurt you. when I'm going to do each dependent, I'm going to do them separately. So I'm actually going to show you minus 2,000, minus 2,000, minus 2,000. I am subtracting out each dependent individually. Now, some of you will be able to take the number 3 and times it by 2,000 and subtract out 6,000 right away. But in the past, I've found that it's just easier because some people ask, where does that number come from? So instead of me showing the multiplication, I'm just subtracting each one individually. So the first one that I look at, are you single or married? If you're single, you subtract out 2,000. If you're married, you subtract out 4. Then the next thing is you're going to subtract out each dependent. So how much is left over? 13,760. And again, Matt just got that by typing that into his calculator. Okay? So he took 23,760 minus 4,000 minus 2,000 minus 2,000 minus 2,000. Okay? Now, from here, the state tax rate was 4%. So the taxable wages is that bottom number, that 13,760. I have to multiply that by 4%. What is 13,760 times 0.04? $550.40. Good. Now, I just want you to realize something with this. This is not coming out per paycheck, because this talks about how much for annually. What does the word annually mean? For the year. Now, it depends on how much you get paid, or how many times you get paid in a year, how much would come out of your paycheck. So if you get paid every 2 weeks, you would divide that number by 26. If you get paid every week, you'd divide it by 52. If you get paid every month, you'd have to divide it by 12. If you get paid twice a month, you'd have to divide it by 24. Okay? If it asks for that. But if it doesn't, we're done. Number 2 on that same page says that you get $43,300. You're single. How much money do I get to subtract out because you're single? 2,000. And you have one dependent. So how much do you get to subtract out? 2,000 again. So the first one was because you were single. Second one was because you have one dependent. What's 43,300 minus 2,000 minus 2,000? 39,300. In this state that this person lives in, it's 5%. So I multiply this now by 0.05. And how much money are you being taxed by the state for the year? $39,300 times 0.05. I know what I got. How much? $1,965, right? So that was for the year for that person. So, for example, if you made $43,300, you were single and you had one dependent, and the state of North Dakota, for instance, was 5%. And I think it might be. I think it's pretty close to 5%. Then for the year, you would pay $1,965 in state taxes. Okay? What do you guys think? So far, so good? Okay. Then, on the next page, if you take a look at the chart, on 5 through 10, it says what your gross pay is first, and then in the chart it even says minus exemptions. And it actually gives you exemptions as one number instead of listing them out individually like I did. So do you see what they did is that they probably combined all the exemptions first and then subtracted it. Whereas I just subtract each piece individually. How do you get part A on the chart?
So how do we go about that if they did it all together?
What does the chart say at the top, Colin? What do you do with the two numbers? Yep. So you're not gonna wanna, or on that particular part, Colin, it's not wanting you to list out each one individually. It just says gross pay minus all the exemptions. They've already totaled it for you. You don't have to worry about that. So then all you do is you subtract them, and that gives you part A.
And then you just,
Part B, you multiply it by the tax rate, and that will give you the answer. Looking at 9 and 10, that's a little bit different setup. On that one, it gives you the taxable or tax withheld. For Part B, you have to find the tax rate for that state. So when we did this problem up here, here's what would happen. We know this, and we know this. How would we work backwards to find this?
dividing?
Yes, dividing. If we multiplied to get this, then all we would do is divide both sides by whatever the taxable wages was, and that gives you the state tax rate.
So is gross pay for the whole year the same?
For that person, yeah. And you know what? If you're a high school kid, maybe that's all you made for the year. I mean, because a lot of times kids only work in the summer, or a couple hours a week just to maintain their job. You might not make that much. In this state, if you make under a certain amount, you don't even have to file taxes in April. Then on the next page, on number 11 through 14, it says the same type of thing. The only difference is it actually gives you a person behind it. So number 11, Jeff Falls, a heating system salesman, is single with 3 dependents. He earns $57,700 annually, and his state's tax rate is 3%. What's the difference between that problem and the one that we did for the first two? Nothing. They just gave you a name and what he does. But does that matter? No. So again, he made $57,900. How much do you get to subtract out because you're single? 2,000. How much do you get to mark out because of each dependent?
2,000 each.
2,000 each, and he had 3 of them. So 1, a 2, a 3. That's how many licks it takes to get to the center of a Tootsie Pop. Okay. So what's 57,900 minus 2,000 minus 2,000 minus 2,000 minus 2,000? It'll take you a while to figure that out, right? You understand?
Yeah, no, I get it.
Just check it. What's 57,900 minus all those 2,000s? 49,900. So what Matt just gave us was he just gave us the taxable wages. Then as far as how much the state tax was, I times it by 3%. And what is $49,900 times 0.03?
$1,497.
Thank you so much. $1,497. Okay. What do you guys think? Not too bad? Okay. So on page 133 to 134, we're going 5 to 17.